Leslie and I have known each other since early childhood. We grew up on the same country road in Mississippi.
I think why we're good for the community of Mississippi is because we're a product of this community. We are just two country guys, and we were embedded with what I call the diamonds of good character.
Come, join the family, and help us build the community.
Charles,
What's going on, Leslie?
what's going on, man? Another Friday. Here we go.
Yeah. Happy Friday, everyone.
It is indeed a happy Friday, and I think with all this going on, let me just get right into it. I'm feeling the heat you've been feeling for the last couple of weeks because I am puzzled, deeply puzzled by what's going on in the education space right now. I'm deeply puzzled by the fact that safety in kids can somehow be a political issue when it shouldn't be. I'm puzzled by the audacity to know that this virus kills people. It results in death for people. We have the rolls show. We have lost hundreds and thousands of Americans due to this virus, but yet we think it's okay to put children and educators in a direct line of something that we know is a threat to them. I'm puzzled because if I take Columbine, if I take Sandy Hook, if I take right outside of Fort Lauderdale, the school down there, if I could take every catastrophe and the reaction we've had in terms of the safety for our kids, we've all been outraged. But now, to send 58 plus million kids into a schoolroom, I'm puzzled. I'm puzzled today, Charles. Help me out. Clear it up for me.
Two things. Vouchers and lack of empathy. On the one hand, you have an administration that devalues public education. When that's the case, this is the perfect opportunity to say what the president said on the other day. Let's get ready to go to school. If schools don't want to open, give the parents a check so that they can go to another school. Well, for those of us who have been on the front lines in education law, civil rights, and that type of thing, we know coded language when we hear it. And the code language is give the parents a check. There's been a school of thought for a very long time that charter schools and private schools are better than public schools. They're entitled to that opinion. But I dare anyone to put the education that we got at Columbia High School, Columbia Elementary School, Jefferson Middle School, up against any charter of any kind. Bring it. We can play shirts versus skins all day long. And the education that we got from Miss Kagan, Miss Britton, Mr. Lewis, we go on down the line. Then we drop down to our formative years, Miss James, my mom, Miss Daniels, Miss Connie. Go to middle school. You gonna tell me it's a charter school teacher better than Bunny Dillon anywhere on the face of the earth? I don't care. You could check 7 planets.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that. No, sir.
No. Vincent Rossi, the quality of those educators, and we have, that's the old guard, and we appreciate them for everything they poured into us. But there's a new guard, and they're at risk right now. Their lives are at risk. And you playing games because of a question of chicken and egg that you perceive in your mind that you're right. There is a place for public schools in the United States that should be valued. Right now, the value is not showing. Jerry Maguire, show me the money. You remember that line?
I do. Indeed,
Right now, they're trying to play with the safety of administrators, staff, children, because they're after a pot of money that they want to allocate to a different way of teaching, a different mode of administrating.
You know, I think it's important. Keep going, my brother. I'm not getting in the way of this because I think that a lot of us, after we get over being puzzled and outraged at the fact that the kids and safety can somehow be a political issue and not just a safety issue. This bigger picture that you're talking about is probably one that a lot of us haven't really tied the connection to. So by all means.
Well, I'll take it a little bit further. When you start talking about adequate funding for public education, if you take Mississippi as a model, it truly sucks. It hasn't been funded by the formula that was put in place in over 20 plus years. They only initially funded it up to a 10th grade level. So you already had teachers who were having to be creative and make pound cake out of peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they went into their own pockets. They sacrificed their own time, money, time, energy away from their families. And we are the payoff.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, we now know that they're more voiceful about charters and private schools. And don't get me wrong, I think there's enough room for everybody to educate. But do not try to make public education second fiddle, and do not use a pandemic to do it. But you have to watch this space, and I've been telling you, you got to watch it around voting rights. Now you have to watch it around education. And not only education from a safety perspective, but a political perspective when you start talking about educational dollars, because that is a large pool of money that will be going in. Look at PPP. You could talk about that way better than I can, but look at the results in the wholesale corruption.
33%. 33% reduction, yet China is up 3% during the pandemic. Right. Germany is only down 3% during the pandemic. But America, the greatest economy in the world, is down 33% during the pandemic. Folks, come on now.
You're talking about GDP. I'm talking about just the PPP.
Okay, you're talking about the PPP. I thought I heard you say GDP.
Yeah, no, I follow what you're saying. I mean, the Great Depression was a 3% drop.
Right.
We had a 33% drop. So what is that? And yeah, you're talking about, I mean, it baffles me. Now I get it, because you know how I feel about LSU football and Jackson State football. We want to see football, but I don't want to see anybody play football at risk of putting themselves in long-term damage.
Right.
So I get it when Coach O says we stay ready and we'll play you in a cow pasture. I get that. But right now, we need to be focused on safety and focusing to find these straw man battles where you try to do an end run around the educational dollars. That's what this is about. So for every parent out there that's got a kid that's in public school, for every teacher that teaches in public school, for every administrator, for every janitor, for every cafeteria worker, for every bus driver, understand that the value of your life is being put into a political hat and shaken. Not stirred, it's being shaken and putting all of you at risk.
You know, when you bring up the issue of charter schools and public education, this debate, and so to me, just playing devil's advocate here, I don't think it's really a question of which one is better than the other. I think it's just a question of education, and the fact of it is you need every form of it. Now, and the reality is, I know you're on a different side. I'm doing this to stir you up for a reason, because I know where you stand, and I'm gonna give you a chance to explain that. I'm picking a fight here for a reason, because some would argue that why not send them to charter, and why not have charter and public go head to head and give the rights of parents to choose where their child goes? Why not?
Look, every parent has the right to send their child wherever they want to. They can send them to school on Pluto, or they can homeschool them, or they can go to charter or private or public. That's a parent's choice. What I'm saying is, do not cripple, crutch, or defunct public education at the expense of the other.
There you go. And my point is, the outsiders have created a battle that don't even exist. Education is complementary. It's just a matter of choices. They're all good. You don't defund one or de-emphasize one to support the other. One shouldn't thrive off the failure of the other. It's education. And so
here's the problem with that logic. That is a utopian logic. But if you go around to the state legislatures across this country, they have been pipelining money out of public education into charter school. So here's where it becomes a dollar argument.
Mm-hmm.
Your child is in public school.
Correct.
You decide that child is going to charter school.
Okay.
That budget is going to follow that child to charter school. Right?
Right.
But here's the rub, and here's the gag. When they don't want you at that charter school and you go back to public school, that money stays at the charter school house.
Now, see, that's something I don't think a lot of people realize. So the money then really doesn't follow the kid.
No.
It follows the kid from point A to point B. That's it.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, is the same true if a kid starts at charter and go to public and then goes back to charter, that the money stays at public?
What you think?
Well, I just had to ask, man. I just had to ask. Look, come on. I got my educators jump on in. I know you guys, we can be your voices today where you can express, but I mean, you can definitely put the questions out there. Glad to have you joining the conversation today. This is the issue that Charles and I, we've had some good ones on this one, good debates on it. And I picked a fight with him today because I know where this stands, and I know how strong of a proponent he is for public education, and so am I. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we were both educated in the public systems, not only in secondary education, but even in higher education. And so my child is a public education student, and I'm very proud of it. And so so don't get it twisted. I'm not on the opposite side, but you will see me playing devil's advocate here, just poking the bear for a reason. Charles, let me just kind of bring in some of the comments we got from our viewers so far. You know, only in the words is the only Petra could say. How you doing, Petra? And then Elise says truth.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good to hear from parents and educators alike, because there are some hard discussions. The Detectives AG act appropriately when reversing the decision of Dallas County Health and Human Services to delay the start of school. That's complicated because you're talking about agency heads, Marsha, and when you're talking about agency heads, they have certain things that trigger what they can and can't review, especially in the AG's office. They can review that. They can possibly weigh in on it. It's gonna take bodies such as, like I used to do at the ACLU, other organizations to band together, and it's gonna have to be legal remedies involved, possibly to sort through all of this, because there is this color-coded map that is getting ready to play out. And again, I keep talking about watching the space, because in red states, certain things are happening. In blue states, certain things are happening. And then on the micro level, in red counties, certain things are happening. In blue counties, certain things are happening. And everybody's shouting at everybody. But what's getting lost is it's getting closer and closer to time for the train to leave the station as far as school, and certain people are pushing people on the train, certain people are grabbing people off. And so we got to be real particular and precise in our language, and make sure that we have good understandings around all of this.
Good point. Well, needless to say, my wife is very passionate on this one.
Exactly. That's I was putting some lipstick on the pig, Marshall, but that's exactly what it amounts to.
Mama's time then.
51%. 6 and 10. That's the age. So I want to go back to something that's instructive. The governor, not a mayor, the governor of Missouri said, send them back to school. They're going to catch COVID, but they'll be all right. They can stay at home. They're not going to die. They're not going to the hospital. They can stay at home.
I was shocked. I was shocked that he actually uttered those words out of his mouth, but he did.
Let that sink in. And, I don't like playing politics. As a retired politician, retired, no interest in it, other than I like to know what's going on around me. When I see foolishness such as Louis Gohmert from your state walking around without a mask, knowing he was positive,
yeah,
you putting people's lives at risk. So what do you think? If you can't control Louis Gohmert, who's supposed to be a highly educated individual, elected member, duly elected member of Congress, how you gonna control a 7th grader or a preschooler or a high school student that feels like pranking? And then you put them all together in the petri dish, because that's what a school is, even in good times. So you're gonna put them in there when the petri dish is hot. This is hot.
No,
and then you're sending them home.
It's like a volcano.
Right. And then you send them home. So let's think about this for perspective. The National Basketball Association has said the only way we're gonna be able to pull this off is if we grab everybody that's gonna play and put them inside of a bubble. Now they're giving Lou Williams all sorts of problems, investigating him for going to get them chicken wings at Magic City because he left the bubble. They don't care about you going to Magic City, Lou, but what they do care is about you bringing that Rona back inside that bubble. But you're not giving these teachers a bubble to be in, nor would they want to be in a bubble with our kids 24 hours a day. But you putting them in danger during the day, and then they turn around and put their families in danger during the night. And then we roll around and do it all over 5 days a week. There is a better way.
To the tune of 58 million.
Right.
58 million kids we're talking about. So that, there you have it. Mr. Brian Wesley has popped in and graced us with his presence today. I hope you're doing well, Brian. I wasn't aware of this. Brian asked, were you aware of this, Charles? I wasn't aware of that.
I was not.
Not up to speed on that one, Brian. But I will tell you, we're going to talk about a little bit about credit a little bit later, particularly, as we deal with the basic series, we've been packaging Corona Talk around some basic core competency. And today it's just about a couple things about credit that a lot of times people don't really understand or know that we try to highlight. And I'll talk a little bit about just kind of our program and specifically what we do in working with customers and what we've added in the wake of COVID to try to be even more of a resource as we look at what's coming proactively down the pipe. So we realize that where it is today, come 6 months from now, people are going to really, really need some help. So if I can get to as many people today and educate and get them in the program and get them the tools and teach and educate, then the better off they'll be. I always say, and a good friend that we know, Charles, you and I both know well in Atlanta, he would always say, most people don't have a credit problem, they have a behavior problem. And I'll take it a step further. Yeah, they have a behavior problem because they were never educated on how to understand the behavior and how to apply it. And so now, just like anybody, if you put anything dangerous in a person's hands and they're not equipped with the education on how to use it in a safe manner, then you've essentially put them in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that's what has happened with credit for so many of us, because it's not taught in a way that puts most people in a position of power. We're taught in a way that we're in a position where we're reacting. And so now we've got to play catch up, and it changed the whole way we think. So when you think about it, the average person doesn't fix their credit until they have been messing it up for at least 12 to 15 years. So now you've got to change 12 to 15 years of bad habits, the way you think, the way you move, the way you function. And if you want this done in a month or 3 months, don't come to me. I'm not your guy, because it doesn't happen that way. But I am going to talk a little bit later about some tools of how we can shift that and really help people around credit. But right now, it was very important that I kind of get Charles talking about this issue of education and what we're seeing right now as our kids are preparing to go back to school. And these decisions are, well, I shouldn't say it's a hard decision, because the hardest part about the decision for me as a parent is not making a decision whether or not they're going to go back to school. For my wife and I, that's not the hard part. The hard part is all the work they've put in, the things they're doing, and with the decisions and the options they're being given, I thought we could have. I felt like our leaders could have done better. I think we're better than this. We're better than I've seen so far.
Here's what I challenge our viewers to look at. If you are planning the reopening of school virtually for a physical opening, that is completely asinine to me. Because that means that you have decided that I'm not going to get sick, but I'm going to plan for something that's going to get my educators and my students sick.
Oh, say that again, because some people are going to catch it about 5:30 today. But say that one more time, because I'm reading it.
Yeah, if you are planning the opening of school and you're planning it virtually for a physical opening, what does that say about you? You're willing to put them at risk, but you're not willing to put yourself at risk.
Look,
I mean, hey, I mean, at this point, I'm gonna speak my mind. If I step on toes, just say ouch. But it just is ridiculous because, kids have pre-existing conditions too. Now, I just text you on yesterday because I've pretty much made up in my mind that I don't watch the news as much, nowhere near as much as I used to, because it's anxiety driven. But I happen to walk past the television and hear the president of these United States say that, young children are immune to corona. Do you know how loud the megaphone is from the White House to the rest of the country, the rest of the world? When you say things like that, you pour gas on this debate that we're having about the safety of it, because now you have a certain segment of the population thinking that children are not going to catch corona when they are dying from it. They're developing brain diseases behind it. It's mutating and affecting them in different ways than it's affecting older people.
So, Charles, here's the thing, and we get this question all the time as well. So, I'm gonna put this to you legally. What options will parents have, if any, in the wake of the decisions that they're all going to have to make here in the upcoming weeks?
Compulsory education has a mandatory component. That's why this is such a tricky, minefield to navigate. But I would say the first thing that I would do is review your own child's district policy, because they should have at least 2 options available. If they don't, then you have to make the economic, safety, health analysis on your family and your finances as to whether or not you have the capabilities of going a different route. And if you do, then there are certain mechanisms that you have to push in order to do that for homeschooling and different things.
So let me ask you this, Charles. What about?
But you cannot, if they start school, you can't just hold them out, because then it becomes it triggers other legal issues with the truancy officer and everybody else. So you and the child about to end up in trouble. So it's sticky.
That's a good point. And that's why I asked the question. Look, I'm going to ask the questions that the people want to know. I know some of you can't ask, but you hit me up saying ask that for me, so I'm asking him.
I'm glad I got a big brain, because you just throw stuff at me.
I do, man. I just throw it at you. Let me give you a break and go to some comments, give you a chance to regroup before I throw some more at you.
Yeah.
This Elise says in my area, educators have not been included in the discussion. The state of Arkansas is scheduled to return August 24th.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame, because the educators are on the ground with the children. They know what it takes to run a immaculate classroom. Like I said earlier, a lot of times they're doing it out of their pockets, because the educational funding is not up to standard, especially in these southern states. We know this for a fact. You know, they made no secret of it.
Yeah. Here's another good question. I'll keep them coming here.
Oh, Marshall. Oh, Marshall. I keep hearing, I have not seen it with my own eyes, but somebody pointed me to one on Facebook the other day. Man, look, they talking about trying to waive if the child gets sick. They trying to take care of their insurance policy. Now that tells you it in a nutshell right there. The only way around that, a fast workaround, is that the parents are gonna have to stick together and have some legal representation at the ready, because if you're gonna make us come, then you have to take the responsibility for what coming means.
Right. And that would be my point. If you're gonna, and this is just from a parent speaking, not from a legal side, but I would think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think if you're gonna make me sign a waiver, then you can't make it mandatory for me to come. You got an issue there, because
right. So it needs to be some sitting at the table and some gnashing of teeth before people start signing those things.
Well, Charles, what about this one though? I know this was a fact here in Texas. They were having, because football players have been practicing and having workouts like nothing has changed. And the UIL ruling here in Texas of what they're gonna do, I just think it's the most craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, how they're handling the football season. But they made them sign waivers to practice, COVID waivers. Mm-hmm. Look, I asked my dad, who he lives, breathes, eats football, particularly high school football. He said he wouldn't do it.
No, I mean, because you're putting parents over a barrel. I mean, politicians, they get the easy road. They have kids, but it's like they sticking to an imaginary line that they know better than. Every parent out there is looking for some form of relief, because kids been home too long at this point. But there are no parents out there who are willing to sacrifice their convenience for their child's safety. I don't believe it. Show them to me. I'm sure it's always a subset. And I don't care how much of a headache little Johnny is. Mama love him if nobody else do.
Well, that is true.
So, I mean, but tough times, man. Tough times, because parents are getting this pushed up on them because of things that are out of their control.
Yeah, they are. And so, If you got any more questions for Charles, guys, send them in right quick before we switch gears here in a little bit and go and talk about credit for a little bit. But
well, while they hold on, Liz, I don't mean to cut you off, but while they're getting that thought together, and before you switch gears into credit, I got something I want to.
Okay, no problem.
I want to lay this out there, and this is another way in which you hear things that are COVID related, but how the language is presented is all wrong, and I want our listeners to be on point.
Okay.
The president cannot move the election.
Oh, yeah.
However, here's what the president can do. The president can slash the funding of the Postal Service at a time when we need to be voting by mail for the safety of our citizenry. Elections, that's a function of Congress. But being advantageous, you got grass eaters, you got meat eaters. He's obviously like Scar at Pride Rock, and he's willing to win at any cost. So this is why I told you months ago you need to be looking at the situation and preparing, because now here we are. This fellow is talking about postponing the election when he don't have no control over that. But he's scaring people with that rhetoric.
But he does have significant control dealing with the Postal Service, which
it's an indirect way. It's an indirect way, something that he's been poking at. And now,
so here's what Charles is saying, translation. Go to the poll, cast your vote if you can. And if you're doing mail-in, mail it the first day mail-in ballots are available, so it gets there. I mean, the reality is if you are physically able to go and cast your vote, period. And if you're not, be on the first wave to get that mail-in ballot in.
That's right. So I just wanted to get that out there because I know I've heard it, I've seen it. He can't do that, but there are ways in which he can effectively make that happen. Hey, Angela.
So Elise says there will be contact sports in high school in the fall, business as usual.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and this comment says it best, and my heart goes out to the educators right now. This comment says we feel like our hands are tied.
Yeah, because you got a job, you got a contract, you got a service you have to provide, but they're putting you in harm's way to provide that service, you and everybody else in the building. And then it's a multiplier effect because those people all leave the building. Everybody leaves the building that night. Then,
yep.
Last man out, cut the lights off.
And so where is that going? Back into where?
Back into your homes, back into the community.
Now watch this. Let's just talk about the magnifier of this real quick. I showed several weeks ago how one person in the course of 48 hours one infected person could easily involve 32,000, have the capacity to reach 32,000. So let me just show you again how that happens. So like Charles said, everybody is leaving the building at some point during the day. Everybody. Now you're going back into whatever that environment you go into when you leave the building. And you ain't going to encounter other people that have not been in the environment you've been in all day. And then they're going to get that and they're going to go back into their respective environments the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's going to hit the people. Now, you see what's happening now. I want you to take that analogy and multiply it times 58.1 million school-age secondary education students. And you do that every day for 5 days, just 1 week. And we don't have a vaccine. We don't have any proven method of treatment, and yet we're about to do that. Now I'm a numbers guy, so I'm an old math guy, and I know when 2 + 2 don't equal 4, and that's a case where the 2 + 2 certainly does not equal 4. So that's how important it is. So that's how important this election is. That's how important it is that we vote. That's how important it is that you guys be active in your school. Look, people have been having PTA meetings virtually and nobody's showing up. That's crazy. It ought to be breaking the Zoom barrier or breaking whatever tool they're using. Ought to be shutting Zoom and Teams down because they can't handle the capacity. This is time to get rid of apathy and insert action. Remove apathy and insert action now.
No doubt about it. I mean, would a vaccine be mandatory? I don't know the answer to that, but Angela, I will tell you this. From every credible source and scientist that is in the fight on COVID, they're going to ensure that the vaccine is safe and all the things. It'll be more safe to take it than not, considering where we are right now. Weigh that versus where we are right now. We can't even hardly go outside.
Right.
And I get some parents don't want their kids taking vaccines. That's a decision you got to make. The show can't make that for you.
Yeah. So guys, keep sending your COVID questions. We're gonna blend them in. I'm gonna hit a few points. It's open dialogue. I mean, this is too serious not to. I don't want to miss any question or feedback. We'll get it in the show. It is that important. Responding to a question I got about. I gotta put. At least it's coming out there. She said, "This is what it's not. It's not the Tuskegee experiment."
Although I will say this, Les.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Oregon, somewhere in Oregon, they put out an article that said Black people don't have to participate if they don't want to. They were trying to be sensitive to just what popped up about Tuskegee and the horrors of that. However, we need Black people participating in these trials because Black people getting sick just like white people, brown people. Everybody getting sick from COVID. So now is not the time to opt yourself out if you want to have a viable solution.
Yeah, so that's that. I mean, we have to have a balanced test, but I think we certainly don't want to be the only ones tested on.
No, everybody need it.
Yep. I got this question, so hopefully this will answer some questions and maybe some others you had. It was about credit, and I had this. When a gentleman wrote into me the other day, he said, "I don't understand." He said, "Why is it that I can get approved for a car and my FICO score is better, but when I try to get approved for a house, it's not so good?" And so I want to tackle that because we got a couple things coming up now. All that's going to change in a little bit, but let's talk about FICO for example. So first of all, you got to remember there is numerous models of the FICO score. FICO's been around for a long time. If you think about FICO, it was actually founded by Bill Fair and Earl Isaac, mathematician, data scientists. But we can go into that realm later in terms of how deep that goes. But the reason why you have a disparity in those two is that most mortgage lenders or banks use the FICO 5 or earlier models such as the FICO 4. Now, the FICO 5 uses data exclusively from Equifax. The reason why they prefer the FICO 5 for mortgages is because it's less forgiving on unpaid collection accounts. Whereas the FICO 9 or the FICO 8 is more commonly used for auto loans. They're more forgiving of the unpaid collection accounts, especially medical accounts. They don't really consider them and evaluate in the algorithm that computes their score. So first of all, you got to always remember is that none of us actually have a score. We all have data that's put into an algorithm that calculates a score. That score is dynamic, so it changes constantly because our data changes constantly. So what you have to learn how to do is to understand your data, protect your data, and then make sure you know how to enhance your data in a way that is going to affect the algorithm positively. So that's what, that's a deep way of getting into it, but there's no other way to get into it than to go there. but that's the differences in FICO 5 and FICO 4 and FICO 9. So that's why if you look, and you'll never see this because when you pull your score as a consumer, you're going to pull the Vantage score, probably a Vantage 3.0 score, which is the educational score. So if you ever watch the fine print, you'll see it say for educational purposes only. It's a general score. It's a good score. It's a general score. It gives you the consensus of where you kind of stand, middle of the ground of all three bureaus. But when you specifically looking for a house or a mortgage, so when I'm working with a client that's looking specifically for a mortgage, is what they're trying to work to, then we're focusing to have a little different strategy because I understand how the algorithm of FICO 5 works. And so we're working in that line. If they're trying to buy an automobile, then we're working in a little different way. So whoever you're working with, you want to make sure that they understand that, they can explain it to you, because that means the way you move has to be differently. So that's the difference there. There's FICO 9, FICO 5. FICO 5 is exclusively data from Equifax. So that's why if you ever saw a mortgage lender's report on you, they'll have the three bureaus, but the FICO 5 is going to come from Equifax, TransUnion. I think Experian is FICO 4, TransUnion, I think it's FICO 3 or FICO 2. Same thing, but it's less forgiving of unpaid collection accounts, especially medical bills, which is the ones that nobody asked for, that really, in my opinion, shouldn't even be calculated, but they are calculated in the earlier models, and that's why your score is less. And I think it was done for obvious reasons, but the fact is it's calculated. So that's why you see the differences there. All right.
Excellent summation, Leslie.
Thank you, sir.
One thing I want to ask you about that is, what do you think the long-term effects are on individual credit with COVID?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be treacherous because what we're seeing right now, particularly with the new FICO 10 model that's being released, and I covered that a few weeks ago, so definitely go back and watch that show that talked about what the changes are going to be. But for the first time, they're going to be using trended data, which means they're going to go back and look at 24 months of your history. And then what they're going to do is use that against you to walk down your credit limits. Now, why is that a big deal? So let me see if I can pull this up and explain why that's a big deal real quickly here. So the reason why that's a big deal is because 35%, I'm going to break down the components of your credit score and how it's calculated. So 35% of your score, 192.5 points, is in an area that's called directly tied to your payment history. Okay, so that's what you did yesterday. That's how you pay your bills and the history of that. Now, what people don't understand, 1 30-day late is going to hurt you dramatically. And the higher your score is, the more it's going to hurt you. So if you have a score over 700 and you have 1 30-day late, it could hit you 60 to 70 points overnight, just like that. If you have a 60-day late, now you got to understand it's not just calculating the 60-day late. Now it's going to mark you 30 days late, and it's going to show 60 days late, and now it's going to really dramatically help you. So now you're over 100 points lost, just like that in terms of your payment history. So pay your bills on time. In the program, we talk about understand when your real due date is based on how the algorithm reports, and I educate consumers on what day they really need to pay this bill. What are the blackout days on your credit card you shouldn't charge, and all of that. So you have to understand that. So that's what we do in our program. The next thing is, and here's the area that is really important for people to understand. So where do we have the opportunity to really educate folks? And it's right here. So 30%, the next biggest part of your score is 30% is in the credit utilization area. That's 165 points of your possible score. Here's why this is important. And here's why this new FICO 10 is going to be problematic. So if you have a credit card with a $10,000 limit and you have that credit card where you're like me and you pay it off at the end of the month early, you pay it off before the cycle ends. So when you get your bill, and so here's a tip. When you get your credit card bill, if you're doing it right, here's what it should say. It should say zero balance due. That means zero payment due, zero balance. If it says anything other than that, you're not operating in a way that optimizes your score according to the algorithm. Know that. That's a free tip for you. So 30% of your score is in utilization. So if you got a $10,000 limit on your credit card, you pay it off, you show 0% utilization, great payment history, you're going to be optimizing the value of this category. But now here's what happens if you don't. So let's say you got a $10,000 limit, you got a $9,000 balance on that card. So you're at 90% utilization on that card, but you pay on time. You're never late. You pay the minimum payment. You pay a little bit over it. You're always on time. With this new FICO 10 that's about to roll out, they're going to look at 24 months of your history. And let's say you take, you normally get your income taxes and you pay it off, or you normally get some money at a certain time of the year and then you make a lump sum and you pay it down or pay it off. They're going to look at that history and now they're going to say, hey, we're not going to extend them that much credit anymore because I don't know when I'm going to get my money back. I might get my money back in 9 months. It might take me 14 months to get my money back. I don't want to extend that much out. So the moment you pay that credit card balance off when you normally do, they're going to come back to you and say, hey, we've adjusted your balance, your limit. So now instead of having a $10,000 limit, you now have a $3,000 limit. Now you say, why is that problematic? Remember, 30% of your score is tied to utilization. So now you don't have as much limit anymore, which increases your utilization, which decreases your credit score. So that's why it's really, 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 really important that because what we do here, I tell people all the time, we don't do credit repair. That's a part of our credit education process, but that's not nearly all we do. And if that's all you want, we're not the place, but we've got to educate you so you understand, so we can change the behavior. But that's what's happening with FICO 10, because if I walk you down to 3,000, now that 7,000 that you did have that allowed your utilization to be at 20% or 15%, now you don't have it. So now instead of your utilization being at 15%, it goes up to 42%. Now, instead of being eligible for what you were getting in this category, now you're going to take the difference in that 15% and 42%. You're going to get that less in that category. And guess what that does immediately? And when it's in the utilization area, it drops your score immediately. It's immediate. And so you've got to understand that. So I just wanted to point out those few things there. And hopefully, if you have any questions, hit me up and chat with Les, schedule an appointment, and we can talk about it and we can get you started. But that's the big thing with FICO 10 was coming. And the reason they're doing that, that's going to take people that have always had great credit, always pay their bills, and overnight, they're going to see that great credit disappear. And what that means is if my credit score drops overnight, my cost of insurance goes up, my cost of everything I utilize goes up. Everything, just like that, goes up.
That's why I asked the question I asked you, is because with this coming, and it's like almost like a perfect storm. Worst time in the world to roll out a new algorithm.
Well, it's by design. Let's talk about that. Why would you roll out an algorithm like this? Who are you protecting? I'm protecting the banks. Oh, yeah. I'm protecting the banks, guys, because I need to look at your history now. We're in a pandemic. I don't want you to run up your balance on your credit cards and then you really can't pay it back. Now I've got to carry that outstanding debt a longer time than I used to. So they're really watching how you spend on your cards. So I'm telling you right now, if you go spend a big amount on your credit card and you don't have the money to pay that off, be prepared to get your limit reduced. It's probably coming with FICO 10 because now they're going to be able to look 24 months back and see, did they lose their job? Did their income happen? What else happened? They'll be able to get your whole report and see that and see the trend of data. So guys, pay attention, take action, because this is coming. It's already been approved. FICO 10 is supposed to start being implemented in the fall of this year, which is right up on us.
Yeah, it's right here. It's right here. Now, I think that's timely information. We pride ourselves on trying to make sure our listeners and viewers are right on top of things. And so I think that's something to consider, Right now, I know people are looking at how you live within your means. COVID is going to be here for a little while, people. So we got to go hard. We got to go hard, especially with this new algorithm coming.
Well, and let me say this. One of the things we've implemented for all of our customers in our program. So just to explain a little bit, and I'm making some enhancements on the back end of our website, and I'll be able to show that to you in an upcoming episode. But we have included in our program, so we don't just help you with credit. It's the education component. They meet with me once a month. We talk through things. but we've also added a money manager software and system. If you're in our program, you get $1 million fraud identity theft protection insurance policy, all included in the program while you're with us. Money manager that helps you manage. If you need help with managing your account and managing your funds to make sure that you kind of reshape the way you think and move, we have that built in our program that's going to help you do that. And so here's what I tell people, and I'll tell you, you might like me when you come into the program. You're not going to like me at certain points through the program, and then you'll love me at the end. It's okay. Because if you like me all the way through the program, I didn't do my job, because it's points where I'm going to have to change and challenge you on the way you're moving and shaking. Because remember, I got to change your behavior. Because if the behavior you were using was working, then you wouldn't have been in the problem. You wouldn't have had the problem anyway. So we've got to reshift that behavior. So that's the things we've added in the wake of the pandemic to be even more helpful, so that we can be ready as customers come on board and they're having to grapple with this, because this is happening. There's nothing we can do to stop it at this point. But since we know it's happening, then we've got to re-educate ourselves. How do we operate in the best way under these new conditions that's headed right for us?
Yeah, I agree with that. Very time. Boy.
And we try to give. We don't try. We give you honestly from our hearts. We give you the information and the tools. Don't just keep it to yourself. Share it, guys. Share it. Charles and I do all of our consultations at no charge. We don't charge you for a consultation. A strategy session. We talk through it. There's no reason not to book a call. There's no reason not to book. It's all done online. You book it virtually. If you want to hit me up and chat with Les, you can go to our website. I mean, it's there. It's just a click of a button. You can make them at 2 or 3 o'clock at night. Charles and I both, we wake up every day not knowing what's on our schedule until we look at it, because it populates overnight. But we make ourselves available to be here. And so those consultations are absolutely free. So why not at least have a consultation and to see, to make sure you're on the right path? Why not? Why not have that consultation, whether it be a legal matter, whether it be a business idea, whether it be credit, whatever it is, ring us up. We're here to help you. So Charles, back to you, man. We've done credit, and I promised we would come back to COVID. And I heard something that's probably not shocking to you, but the Mississippi numbers are still rising.
Yes, sir. I think today, let me not tell a story. I'll find it for you. But the other day we had 1,775, and not only are the numbers rising, the death toll is rising.
That's problematic. That's sad, actually. It's at this point, we are March, April, May, June, July. So what's that? 4 months, solid months into quarantine, into dealing with this pandemic. Because there's no way we should be going up. I mean, we know enough about the fact that it's contagious. We know enough about the fact that it's real, that our behavior should have changed.
Yeah, people are weighing their options as far as the need for human contact over the long-term greater good, and it's putting everybody at risk at this point. So, you know how I feel about that. 1,168 new cases, 52 deaths. That's a high. Yesterday, 1,775 or somewhere in there. 3 days.
Listen, I'm kind of happy to announce that at least in our area in Dallas County, we have been seeing decreases. And so I think for the first time, I think we had 16 straight days of over 1,000 new cases just in Dallas County.
Yeah, but you're talking about a county that's extremely populous. I'm talking about a state that's a lot of land, not that many people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is not me. And then we keep getting this this real hinky mask mandate that's being piecemealed out county by county. Come on, man.
So is there a mask mandate in Mississippi right now or no?
Depends on where you live, what county you live in.
So is the counties are able to decide?
No, this is the governor saying that he putting in emergency mask mandate for, it started out at 13. I think he added 8 more, maybe added a few more.
He's doing it by county?
That's what I just said. Don't make sense. Don't make sense. I assume it make dollars, but it does not make sense. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, man. I'm just sometimes all I can do is laugh about it because it's just crazy to me. It doesn't travel from county to county.
Man, look, here's what I'm gonna tell everybody. 2020 has been a revealing year when it comes to leadership. You don't know until you put yourself in the big seat how you will react. But buddy, after you fumble the ball 2-3 times in football, they're gonna find another running back.
That is true.
Nationwide, we've seen some good responses to Corona. We've seen some horrible ones. We've seen some people jump the gun. We've seen some people be very pragmatic.
Right.
You've seen politics as usual, suspect politics. You've seen downright dirty, low-down scoundrels in politics. You saw you saw concrete evidence of what it means to not follow the signs. Herman Cain died yesterday as a result of his contracting Corona, probably at that Tulsa mass gathering for a political speech. You cannot operate in the same way you used to. You just can't do it.
No, and really there's no other way to say it other than that, you know. Guys, hit us up. You can call us right there. You can hit us up and book an appointment to chat with Les or at urban-law.com. Right at the top, orange button blinking at you. You can click there to schedule a session. Free session. Talk to us. Let's see if we can help you.
Yeah.
Charles, we got about 3 minutes left here. What are your final words and final thoughts?
I'm going to take this time to talk about somebody near and dear to my heart. And I wonder what it's like for him. As the first Black president, Barack Obama has eulogized some of the most important figures in American history. What must it be like for him to have to sit down and be an empathetic voice for the entire country, and then magnify that by not being in the position because he's timed out, and seeing what he's seeing right now? He once told us, don't boo, vote. He's told us all types of things that help us in our day-to-day and has helped spur a wave of new blood in politics. But on yesterday, he was particularly fiery because I think he's feeling that even in giving empathy in a time of need, there's still a fight going on the other side. It was telling to see who was at the funeral of the late, great John Lewis and who was not.
Right.
And so that should tell you all you need to know about where you need to be focused. We want you focused on social distancing, don't get me wrong. But we want you to be focused on how you social distance, take care of your kids in this educational fight, and how you get your ballot back to where it needs to be. Because you got to vote in overwhelming numbers. because that's going to affect the pandemic response. That's going to affect the community response, and ultimately, it's going to hit kitchen table issues, because the longer this goes on, the closer we are flying to another food shortage or essential items shortage. That starts and ends with leadership. So, what must it be like to be in the mind of the 44th president of the United States when he's trying to be empathetic and express and console the nation in times like this? And like he said, he's a product. He's one of the sons of John Lewis, from his aspirational value that he brought to us all, but more so to his mindset and what he leaves us with on a daily. Because he may not be president anymore, but he'll always be president who gave us a conscience.
You know, Charles, with that said, I think we'll hear from John one last time and play a little bit of his speech, his dream speech. And then after that, we'll see you guys next week. Same bad channel, same bad time, and same bad channel.
They don't know about that Batman, man. Go on.
They don't know about that. They don't know about that.
That's old. That's the original Batman right there.
Oh, okay.
You know, I had a Batmobile. I had the costume. I had it all. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Let's hear what old John Lewis has to say to us.
All right.
And only 50 years after the historic March on Washington for jobs and freedom, we have come a great distance in this country in the 50 years, but we still have a great distance to go before we fulfill the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. Sometimes I hear people saying nothing has changed, but for someone to grow up the way I grew up in the cotton fields of Alabama, to not be serving in the United States Congress, makes me want to tell them, come and walk in my shoes. Come, walk in the shoes of those who are attacked by police dogs, potholders, and nightsticks, arrested and taken to jail. I first came to Washington in the same year that President Barack Obama was born to participate in a freedom ride. In 1961, Black and white people could not be seated together on a Greyhound bus. So we decided to take an integrated fashion ride from here to New Orleans. But we never made it there. Over 400 of us were arrested and jailed in Mississippi during the freedom ride. A bus was set on fire in Anniston, Alabama. We were beaten and arrested and jailed, but we helped bring an end to segregation in public transportation. I came back here again in June of 1963 with the Big Six as the new chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. We met with President Kennedy, who said the fires of frustration were burning throughout America. In 1963, we could not register to vote simply because of the color of our skin. We had to pay a poll tax, pass a so-called literacy test, got the number of mothers in a bar soap, of the number of jelly beans in a jar. Hundreds and thousands of people were arrested and jailed throughout the South for trying to participate in the democratic process. Many others have been killed in Mississippi. And that's why we told President Kennedy we intended to march on Washington to demonstrate the need for equal justice.
Leslie and I have known each other since early childhood. We grew up on the same country road in Mississippi.
I think why we're good for the community of Mississippi is because we're a product of this community. We are just two country guys, and we were embedded with what I call the diamonds of good character.
come join the family and help us build the community.